Hello, Jake Like here, gaming lawyer at your service. Alright, for real this time. This episode is going to be more chill and won't contain a lot of legal technicalities. Comparatively, today I will be teaching about social etiquettes in the context of collaborating with people to do something big, and why sometimes it's a good idea to formally put it in writing, as we are making a legal contractual agreement between parties. It's actually a practice that's been deeply looked into and continued to be refined by a huge gaming community that's been around for decades. Tabletop RPG players, which I'm proud to be a part of in my recent years. And as always, before I start, I would like to emphasize that the information provided in this video is only for education and entertainment purposes. Please seek qualified professionals if people stop letting you into stores or invite you back for gaming sessions again. Without delaying further, let's get on with the basics. So what are these less legally defined terms mean when people use them? Well, when we are socializing with other people, there are implied rules or manners that we are supposed to follow so as to not harm each other through physical or verbal interactions. For example, Jackie and Timmy is playing a game of chess. Timmy gets frustrated after Jackie gets a checkmate on him. Instead of congratulating Jackie, Timmy throws the chess pieces into Jackie's face and shouts profanities at him. What Timmy just did was breaking social etiquettes of chess. You're not supposed to hurt Jackie, even though there's not a rule written in chess. It's an unspoken rule we follow in society. However, this unspoken rule is more complicated than that. Because social etiquettes exist in everything we do that involves interacting with other people, there is not one manual book to follow on what to do in all given social activities, and we are supposed to learn this naturally through trial and error alone. This is especially true for people like myself. They aren't really good at getting social cues and is always hesitant to take the initiative for fear of offending or hurting someone. Luckily for me, I have been able to practice socializing by playing tabletop role-playing games, TTRPGs for short, which I'll explain what they are, since it's essential to understand how they approach issues of social etiquettes. In a game of TTRPG, such as the popular Dungeons & Dragons around the world, as the saying goes, players use pen, paper, and their imagination to create their own heroes to tell a story cooperatively, while another person known as the Game Master narrates the game's world and its inhabitants of which the players interact with. The unique concept of this game is that you are supposedly free to speak and take actions as you see fit. There is no fixed list of actions to do by a player. Whether you want to fight, persuade, bargain, intimidate, or avoid an encounter is entirely possible and up to you, and what you can do is only limited by your own creativity. That said, you can see why this concept could create multitude of problems, mainly having players behave not as desired. Since it is basically a social interaction simulator, players may feel that they are free to do things that are considered rude, horrible, and offensive in real life, since they are only pretending and the consequences are fake. This could mean anything from using offensive language, discriminating certain type of races of people, doing any sexual acts with players or non-players, to committing genocide against an entire population in the name of religion. You would think it is obvious that actions I have mentioned previously should be abhorrent enough for people to not even try and reenact, or some of you might really think that it is just a game and no one was actually harmed. Tabletop players of recent generations have recognized the justification of
"That's just what my character would do"
is far from an acceptable excuse. Even though the character's actions are not real, they have real effects on other players whom may be forced to relive their traumatic past experiences in their life. Real effects being psychological harm, mental triggers through mimicking and normalizing toxic behaviors. So in order to curb this, many from the TTRPG community have begun to lawyer up in dealing with the problem, which the simplest and most effective way is by writing down what things are agreeable to all players before running any game. Just as why any legal contractual agreements are made, so that all parties are able to agree to a set of rules to follow and expectations to meet. You You might be questioning if one really has to be so careful in such a casual social activity, and is the hassle of a checklist for players to agree needed? From a lawyer's perspective, doing this much is the bare minimum. Imagine what it takes to join a social activity that involves several people to work together, which, whether you like it or not, requires immense time, energy, and money for those people, and the social interactions among those people would determine if all that effort was worth it. To which I applaud the TTRPG community for implementing such a solution for the game. And as I think to myself, why should we stop there? I believe other types of complex social activities, where the main goal of it is to learn, help, and or have fun, should have some form of written agreement to clarify any rules and expectations as well, so as to avoid any misgivings or misunderstandings when doing something that takes a lot of effort. From the top of my head, collaborative works between individuals that are not in an official group or company are the ones in need of such social contracts, and there are many communities that often do such works together, composing an original song or music with other musicians, organizing an event that is relatively large for what an individual can do, collaborating with content creators to make videos, streams, or podcasts, publishing a book with writers, editors, and illustrators. All the above examples I mentioned are normally done by experienced groups and companies, and they do it well because they are structured and organized. But so can individuals, if everyone knows what they need to do in such a situation. So here's my experience as a lawyer may help you on this endeavor. Contracts come in all shapes and sizes. They don't have to conform to any format or requirements. The terms and conditions just have to be simple but sufficient enough to cover most interactions of any activity. I might not be able to tell you exactly what needs to be written, but I'll let you know what are the general things you need to consider at least. Though before I start, I would like to remind you that social contracts should not be legally binding, and I strongly recommend that you state that in your document as well. To make social contracts binding will defeat its original purpose. They should only serve as a reminder of the social etiquettes to follow, and parties have to put faith in each other to do what needs to be done. Number 1. You need to identify everyone involved in the social activity, of their roles they are going to fill in, and what sort of work they need to provide. This is one of the things you can't skip if you want to be somewhat organized. Number 2. If there is money involved in your activity, you must specify who and how it is all handled, from paying services, costs, damages, or repairs, to receiving and sharing profits you gain from the activity. However, if large sums of monies are involved, having a lawyer draft you a proper legally binding contract should be your go-to instead. Number 3. Having everyone understand the overall flow of the social activity is important so that you won't have a never-ending project in your hands, which is why you need terms to specify what tasks or procedures need to be done. And if your project or work is time-sensitive, you will also have to state deadlines for all individuals to meet. Number 4. Just like the social etiquettes of TTRPGs, you need to make sure what behavior is acceptable. Normally specifying this is enough to drive away unsavory people, so you don't have to worry about this so much. Number 5. Having all the above terms and conditions is fine, but knowing what to do when they are breached is important as well. Like for whatever reason, someone cannot work anymore or cannot work within the agreed time. Do you replace them, find solutions to this issue, or decide to cancel the activity altogether? This needs to be discussed with each other, and not just apply the rules if you want to keep healthy relationships with each other. And finally, as a personal advice, not legal advice, you can always change your written terms and conditions if you find something that doesn't seem to work with everyone. Mutual agreement to change is always possible. So armed with a written social contract, you should be able to participate in any social activity without fear of ending up in an awkward situation of people having shouting matches, making racist jokes, or getting below average quality work, which could make the entire experience disappointing and depressing. So to summarize, we learned that social etiquettes are difficult to understand and comply with, particularly if the social activities have multiple people involved. These unspoken rules are never officially taught and requires your own experiences and knowledge to decide what's acceptable. Good thing there are social interaction simulators called tabletop role-playing games to help us practice and understand social etiquettes, which one of the ways is literally providing documents listing them for players to agree to. And if this community community is successfully implementing this method, why not others as well? Drafting actual social contracts should be more common, and I hope with my suggestions, more people will be able to do just that. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or criticisms about today's lesson, please comment and let me know, or you can find me at our Discord community server Light & Co. Gaming Aid Center. Link is in the description below. Until next time, be hopeful but stay critical.